It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Hello and welcome to the Happy Families podcast. I'm Dr. Justin Coulson, and today, because it's school holidays, because the Easter break has, it's upon us, Mrs. Happy Families, Kylie, is completely devoted to our children right now. The podcast must go on, though, and so I've invited a friend and special guest to co-host the podcast with me all this week. Her name is Christine Layton. Christine Layton is the ABC Western Australia and Perth Afternoons presenter. She's also the mum to a 4-year-old with a brand new baby on the way. And Christine, essentially, the podcast is yours all week. I'm going to obviously intro the pod, but we can talk about whatever you want. We're going to do it with literally no prep. I'm just relying on you to come up with content and questions because you're a reporter, you're an interviewer, you're a radio host. You know how to do this. And
well, Justin, I'm going to get you to rap Gangster's Paradise by Coolio firstly, just to see how cool a dad you are. Just joking.
As I walk through the valley in the shadow. No, I won't do it. But I was ready for it. Just hit me with it. We'll do it.
Oh, that's amazing. Honestly, we should go to karaoke one night. But parenting, let's talk about it, because to have you to myself for 4 whole episodes is just a dream. And look, I thought we'd start with a topic that I think other parents will be able to relate to. Now, recently in Perth, we had a certain man by the name of Logan Paul visit. Now, he is said to be a social media personality, an actor, a professional wrestler, but really he's all about this energy drink which has unhealthy amounts of caffeine in it. We saw thousands of kids plead with their parents to take them out to Woolworths in Midvale, of all places, which is on the outskirts of Perth suburbs, to go and see this guy. And I just couldn't understand what the hype was about. And I watched his videos, Justin, and I've read his posts, and I still don't get it. And neither do other parents. So what do you do when your child starts to idolise a mindless influencer?
This has happened for decades and decades. It hasn't always been social media influencers. It's been pop stars or it's been supermodels. So this is not an unusual thing. I guess what's unusual now is that the reach of these people is so vast and it's also what's the word? It's so I want to use the word insidious. That's such a negative connotation to it. But like they're everywhere all at once, and they really touch all of our kids. So I guess the first thing that I would say is I want to normalize the reality of it. Before we had social media, One Direction and Justin Bieber were just blowing up everywhere. Well, social media was becoming a thing, but it wasn't what it is now. And I remember doing media interviews back in the early sort of 2010s sort of time, and people were saying, what's going on with teenage girls? Like, are they going to be okay the way they're idolizing these pop stars? It's pretty much the same thing, Christine. It's just that it's Logan Paul or it's Andrew Tate. And there are issues with that, because Logan Paul and Andrew Tate and many other social media influencers, their messages are a little less benign than being in love with a pop star like Donny Osmond in the 70s. I mean, this has been going on for decades and decades.
It has. That's right. And the Beatles. I mean, I remember women fainting in the front row just from seeing them, and that at the time some of their messaging in their songs was seen as crude. But I don't know. Is it that these influences have become more radical? Is this how times are moving? What do you think, Justin?
One of the reasons that the influencers like Logan Paul are where they are is because of the way they explicitly transgress what parents are all about. I mean, I remember when I was a kid growing up, and do you remember the band Poison? They had that song, Every Rose Has Its Thorn.
Yes.
And they used, your mama don't dance and your daddy don't rock and roll. They did a great cover of that. But Poison were in the Rolling Stone magazine and other places like that. I was a music junkie, and they were. I think that the direct quote was something like, "We want to be the band that parents hate."
Yes.
And so the reason that so many of these influencers are who they are is they are intentionally transgressive. They intentionally push against the values and the mores, the standards and the things that matter most to parents. They do it because they know that if they do it, as adolescents, tweens and teens start to say, hang on, I'm my own person. My parents can't tell me what to do. Well, the easiest way to make sure that you can individuate and differentiate from your parents is to say no or to do something that transgresses parental preferences.
Okay, so does that mean as a parent you grab a can of Prime Energy drink for, I don't know, $50 off eBay and then crack it open when you pick them up from school? Does that make things better or worse?
Yeah, so what you're really saying is, should I be cool dad? Should I be cool mum?
That's right, yes. Yeah. Should I be coolio?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So the correct answer, I think, is no. No, not at all. You don't want to sell out your values, and you also don't want to try to be cool so that your kids look at you and go, oh, you're the coolest parent out there. It's okay. In fact, it's necessary for parents to have standards and values and to teach them to their kids. I love the metaphor. There's a guy in the United States. He's a really well-known youth speaker. His name is Josh Shipp, and he goes around to all the high schools and does all those motivational talks that high school kids love. He was an adopted child, and he talks about the importance of one caring adult in the lives of kids. But when he's talking to parents, he uses this metaphor of the ride on a roller coaster. You know, when you sit down and that bar comes down across your chest and across your knees and it pushes into you and it sort of squeezes you down into the seat, pushes the air out of your lungs. And every single time that happens, Christine, I presume you've been there, right? Like you've had that thrill-seeking. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Every time that happens, what's your initial instinct as it pushes into you? What do you do?
Yeah, I definitely want to run. I'm picturing myself on the Gold Coast, in fact, where my boyfriend at the time forced me to go on every single ride, and I hated it. Yeah, you do. You push back.
Yeah, you push back. And so as it pushes against your chest or against your legs, it's almost like you lift against it. You push away from it because it's uncomfortable. You don't like the restriction of it. But there's another reason that we push against it that Josh Shipp points out, and I think it's really valuable here in this conversation about social media influencers. We push against that bar, that safety net, the thing that's there to protect us, I think also so that we can make sure that it's not going to move. It's actually there to keep us safe. And when we push against it, yes, it's uncomfortable and yes, we're resisting it, but we're also just double checking. Like, is it really going to hold me?
We know that it's there.
Yes.
It's going to keep us safe.
And so therefore, when an influencer is flogging their latest product, energy drink or clothing or, I don't know, Botox, for crying out loud. I mean, there's some pretty wild stuff out there, or misogynistic views. As parents, it's not for us to say, you know what Andrew Tate said, it's actually pretty cool and I agree with him because I want to be cool parent. I don't think that serves us well. It doesn't serve our children well. And you know what? They know that we're not being authentic. They really want to push against that bar and know that it's holding firm because there is safety in knowing it, even if it's uncomfortable and even if our teenager doesn't like it. So no, don't go out and buy Logan Paul's drink from overseas on eBay and get it shipped in just so that you can be the cool parent and say, look, I got it for you. Instead, we have conversations with our kids. We say, what is the deal with this influencer? Let's watch what they're talking about. Let's actually watch 2 or 3 clips on TikTok. Let's sit down and watch it and let's see whether or not he or she is on the ball. And I think we have much more productive, much more useful conversations with our kids when we approach it from that angle.
Yes, I love that. That is such good advice. And I will try and think differently when I'm on a roller coaster next time, Justin. Maybe it's good advice all round.
I'm really glad. That's excellent. I guess there's probably one other thing to highlight. And it's implicit in what I've already said, but if you don't know the influences that your kids are following, if you don't know what they're talking about, I don't know if you found this, Christine, or not. You're in the media and your job is to be curious and to pursue information. But I can honestly tell you, as a parent of 6 kids, I'm kind of just, every now and again, I get tired. I get a bit over having to be across.
You'd have to monitor 30 of them. You'd have to monitor 30 different influences per day. It's so hard to keep up. I find it hard to keep up with the news cycle as a presenter at the ABC. It would be equally as hard to keep up with social media influencers as a parent, I would think.
Yeah, it really is. And so a lot of parents just shrug their shoulders. They don't even bother showing up to the parent night where I'm speaking because they're like, oh, you know what? I don't care. The kids will be fine. And even if they're not, I'll deal with it then. And there's a sense of, I think, maybe feeling powerless as a parent, like there's just too much going on, and what can I do anyway? Because the kids are going to get sneaky. They'll figure out a way to get the energy drink, whether I say yes or no. They'll do it anyway. And I just think it's worth highlighting, if you're feeling like that, it is worth the effort. And the easiest way to do it is just to have a conversation with your kids. Hey, who's your favorite influence at the moment? Or who's the person that everyone's following at school? And can we watch 2 or 3 of their clips? What do you think about that? How does that feel? Like, you can do it in 10 or 15 minutes. And we blow it all the time. Like the other day I was having this interaction with my child, my 19-year-old daughter. So she's an adult now. And I disagreed with her about something, and I was impatient, and I wasn't the perfect parenting expert that I'm supposed to be. And I just said, oh, for goodness sakes, why can't you just listen to me? I know that you're an adult and you can make your own decisions, but I've climbed nearly 50 rungs on the ladder of life, and you're on rung number 19. I know the view from number 19 is awesome, but I'm way up here. Like, I know stuff that you just don't know. Why do you think you know more than me? And then I stormed out of the room. I'm like, just fine, do it yourself, do it your way, or something like that. I was just so frustrating. But the beautiful thing about parenting is you get the opportunity an hour later or a day later or a week later to say, you know what, I really blew it in that conversation the other day. And this is what you can do if you find that your kids are watching Andrew Tate or Logan Paul or whoever else. You can say, I blew up. I did it all wrong. But I really think we need to have a conversation about this. And your child might roll their eyes and say, can we please not have that conversation? But you can say, actually, I get that you don't want to, especially after the way that I behaved last week. But this is too important to not talk about. I don't want to put any pressure on you. I actually just want to watch 2 or 3 clips with you so that we can both understand together what's really going on here. Can we do that tonight at 8 o'clock? Like you can set the appointment with them. You can repair the relationship, and then have really healthy conversations moving on from there. So I just want to add that to this discussion that we're having, Christine. I think it's important that we don't ever feel like it's too late or we've blown our chance.
I pictured you stepping down the ladder from rung number 50 down to 19 and seeing it from her perspective and both being on the ladder together. That was a beautiful visual and incredibly useful. Well, look, I have to say the only good thing about Logan Paul is he takes a wonderful quokka selfie. So, I mean, that is his only redeeming factor, Justin. But thank you for helping us tackle that today.
Well, I really hope it's been helpful. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rule. I'm from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. And for more information about making your family happier, you can visit happyfamilies.com.au.